What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another very special edition of the Run the Jewelz podcast show and vidcast series. I'm your host, Julian Smartrimple, King Jewelz here, ready to drop some more jewels for today's episode, you all. As we are literally winding down as we go into a new season, you all. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to our wisdom listeners that are tuning in for the exclusive Q&A with my very special guests and also on Twitter Spaces. But if you are joining us for the first time for the RTJ show, the RTJ Lifestyle Show was created to spread inspiration to young professionals and millennial entrepreneurs who want to learn wisdom on how to shine brighter in their careers or their businesses. And so if you are a millennial, big up to the millennials that are tuning in and listening. Shout out to the Gen Zers. And even if you are a baby boomer, we still have love for you. We know we definitely celebrate the baby boomers still. But shout out to all of the entrepreneurs and young professionals that are rocking with us. Also for our guests, if you are interested in being a future guest on the RTJ show, all you have to do is click the link that we're putting in the comment section right now to allow our team to comb through your application and see if you have what it takes as a shining jewel. If you are a king or a queen with a dynamic testimony, or if you are a business owner, or even a young professional that is really trailblazing in your career or your industry, definitely click the link to sign up for our applications for our next season. And then finally, we do have a lot of guests that are going to be answering any questions for you all who are listening on Twitter Spaces and also on Wisdom. And so you can listen to us on all podcast streaming platforms that you listen to your favorite podcast at. Just search for the Run the Jewelz podcast show with my cover art. And literally, you will be able to listen to our episodes from season 1 all the way now to season 4, you all. And so shout out to all of our guests that have been our VIP jewels for this season. If you have any questions, wisdom listeners or Twitter space listeners at any time, feel free to put them in the comment section below. This is a live Q&A show. I'm just the humbled host. So we are about to get ready to dive in for our very special VIP guest. I actually came across this dynamic queen by way of one of our all-star partners. Shout out to the Midnight Prayer Watch hosted by Delta Williams. You literally definitely need to listen to the Midnight Prayer Watch also, which is one of our star partners for the Smart Jewels Network. But we came across this young queen by way of a phenomenal agency, a podcast agency by the name of Pod People. And literally, she's the VP of community. I'm excited to see exactly how she's been able to progress with her career when it comes to literally aligning people into podcast careers or freelance or consultant positions in the audio, also entertainment industry. And so today we're going to be talking with her about how to pivot into audio and entertainment as a career. And this is a very popular subject because, as we know, podcasts are literally blowing up. It's still early in the industry's genesis, but you got to get in now before everyone saturates the market, you all. And so I'm excited to talk with our very special VIP guest, Miss Jasmine Hammond. Jasmine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me, Julian. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on and dropping the jewels with us this morning. I thank you for taking time out to share your jewels of wisdom with us.
Absolutely. And you were sharing so many wonderful things about the audio space already. So I'm happy to add more to what you already know and what you're already adding to your audience. It's really awesome.
Absolutely. And Jasmine, what we usually do is we have our special guests tell us, Jasmine, where your hometown is, where you're currently streaming with us today for the episode, and why is this an important subject for you to talk to us about this morning?
Yeah, 100%. So I am Jasmine. I'm actually from Dinwiddie County, Virginia, which is a really small rural county in Virginia. I grew up in farmland, Virginia, but I slowly moved my way up the East Coast. So I lived in Philly for 8 years, and now I live in Brooklyn, New York. And that's where I'm streaming from. With this, I am the VP of Community at Pod People, as Julian shared. And I have a really interesting background from theater into the audio space. And it's super important to talk about this. One, the community aspect where we are trying to make audio accessible to all. Audio is a wonderful medium for people to get into. You can do all types of audio projects for relatively cheap, and then of course you can increase them as your income becomes more profitable in this space. But it is a really accessible way for us to get dynamic stories out into the world, and so it's very important to me as a community-driven person to be able to provide those accessible opportunities to people who want to share their story, who want to get different voices and marginalized voices uplifted, and that's why I'm here. Really excited to talk more about it.
Absolutely. We thank you again, Queen, for taking time out for the jewels. For those who are still listening or just catching us, we're here with Miss Jasmine Hammond, who is talking to us about how to pivot into audio entertainment as a career. And so, again, Wisdom listeners or Twitter Space listeners, if you want to ask any questions of Jasmine, feel free to come onto the stage. Don't be shy. But Jasmine, I definitely wanted to know, like, how did you get into audio and entertainment? Because from what I researched a little bit about your background, and you could tell me if I'm incorrect or if I'm off-putting with that, but you came from a theater and production background is
Yeah.
what I remember researching. So tell us, how did you go from theater, and what did you love about theater and production that allowed you to pivot into audio entertainment?
100%. So I'm an educator first and foremost. That's kind of where my background started. I always wanted to be a math teacher growing up, and then I realized that it wasn't fun enough for me. So I also really love theater as a hobby, and I was trying to find that middle ground about between like how can I teach people, but also how can I use this really interesting medium of theater. And so I went to school for theater. I made a bunch of contacts, and I started to do some educational theater projects, including some children's theater tours. And the big thing about theater, it's networking. I think anything in the entertainment space is networking. And literally a networking theater project that I did in 2013 ended up leading me to my VP title at Pod People, which is so interesting. So basically, I was doing a children's theater tour. I decided to stay in the education space more. I became the resident teaching artist at a really big regional theater and moved up into an assistant director of education role. From there, a lot of people in Philly were seeing some of my work that I was doing. I was doing a lot of work in accessibility education at that time. So I was working a lot with students with special needs, students with different disabilities, and providing space for them to perform. I got noted by the Philly Inquirer with that, and I got an award for some of the things that I was doing with that, which brought even more attention. And eventually I ended up at the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts, which is a huge regional theater, national touring Broadway house. So when I was there, I was doing educational programs too. And basically I made a connection there that ended up moving me to Brooklyn to be the director of outreach at a school. And then while I was doing that job, I got an outreach from someone I was on tour with in the children's theater tour who said, "Hey, we have this company called Pod People. We're looking for someone to do some community work. You're doing some awesome stuff. I've been watching you for almost 10 years. Would love to bring you over." And so they basically recruited me from there. So I started off as the director of community, moved up to senior director in a few months, and now I'm VP of community there. I think my love of theater and connecting people and creating these educational spaces really helped me in my current job, where it was truly theater is about making empathetic connections with people. And that's what I do in the audio space. In theater, of course, there's all these different careers. And so, I was mostly actor, singer, dancer, turned director, choreographer. But with that, you have to know all the moving parts of what's going on with the show. So the audio space is, of course, a part of a musical. You have to know what's going on with the sound, the dynamics, making sure everybody can be heard. And so that little bit of a touching point there really expanded my career in the audio space over here. And transparently, I'm still learning a lot about audio. I feel kind of nerdy with my setup here. But, I really think that the combination of my experience in the theater is starting to transfer in a really cool way in this audio space.
I love it. Shout out to all the fellow educators like Jasmine, and even I come from an educator's background, Jasmine, so it's always a pleasure meeting fellow educators that are still using their ability to educate, teach, and develop not just youth, but even adults now in your role as a VP of Community for Pod People. And so we appreciate all of our fellow educators, no matter where you're at in the world. But I know I definitely wanted to give a big up to Brooklyn. My mother is from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, Jasmine, and born in Jamaica, Queens. And so we always got to show love to those who are in the New York, in the tri-state, or even the New York community in the boroughs. But definitely, I want to hear more about like your technical skills that you developed in theater that helped you excel very quickly in audio entertainment. But we're going to go to a quick commercial break to allow us to literally highlight our VIP affiliate partner with the RTJ episode for today. Each and every episode, we highlight either an affiliate partner or a VIP sponsor for our episodes. If you are a small business owner, or even if you are a young professional that has a product or a literal service that you want to highlight, feel free to click the link that we're putting in the comment section below to have your business and also your product or service seen or heard with our international network. So shout out to our VIP sponsor for today. Let's take a look and see who it is, y'all. So shout out to our VIP affiliate with StreamYard. StreamYard is literally the platform that we are streaming off of right now, you all. It is a dynamic multi-streaming and simulcasting platform that you can use for streaming on multiple social media sites, and even with Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, of course. Literally, you can stream in multiple places at one time, you all. And so that's why we love using StreamYard. And so you can receive an exclusive $10 off discount by clicking the link that we're putting in the comment section below, or even Wisdom listeners, you can go to the page that is attached with our flow code page to see how you can become a part of the StreamYard community. And so shout out to a stable streaming platform that is doing some awesome work for content creators, StreamYard. But Jasmine, I definitely wanted to highlight StreamYard before we continue, because I know you've developed a ton, I'm sure, of technical skills even prior to coming into audio and entertainment, just from being in theater and also in production. I have a good amount of friends and family that tell me like going into theater is different, of course, from going into television or movies or regular acting in front of the camera versus on stage production.
Mhm.
So tell us, like, what technical skills did you actually acquire that have helped propel you in your career in audio and entertainment?
100%. So this is a very interesting question because I did theater and film, so I've been on both sides of it. For film, mostly as an actress, but in theater, I've worked in all types of mediums, like I shared before. With that, of course, being an actress first, VO work is so important. You know, the clear diction, the being able to use your voice in very interesting ways, being able to tell a story just using your voice. So I actually do a lot of VO work on the side with pod people from time to time. Outside of that, my background's truly in like live performance production, and so we do a lot of events at Pod People. All of our events are free for our community to attend, and so it's all about creating very interesting, dynamic events where our speakers are comfortable and feel good in the space. And so I have a lot of technical skills in virtual event production that goes along with our podcast recording and our live events that we do in the virtual space. Outside of that, though, in my technical side for theater, I was in the sound booth a lot. And I spent a lot of time figuring out, like, how do we make transitions happen? How do we do different, like, volumes and things to tell the story that we're trying to do? And so I've been able to add that skill a little bit to the work that I'm doing at Pod People, where I can listen to things and see if the story is really being told by the audio levels that we're presenting, if the sound is really coming through. And I use those skills a lot with our community when they send me audio samples and they're trying to make beautiful portfolios. And I'm able to really listen in to figure out, like, what is the story that they're trying to tell with who they are in their professional career? What notes can I give them based off my director experience? And then outside of that, it's just really small things too, where it's like, I can't hear the people in your podcast. Like, let's look at those levels together. Let's see what we can do to make it really clear. I'm hearing some ums and uhs in your recording. You know, that detail oriented listening to tell that story is super important in theater, including the physical story, but being able to really zone in that. Outside of that, like the mic kits, the headphones, just making guests feel really good in podcasting and what you can do to make sure everybody's sounding the same, everybody's feeling good. And so I've been a really cool asset in that decision making at work.
Wow, that's phenomenal, especially with you being in the booth. I have a good amount of literally just ecstatic honor and paying privilege, due honor to you all who work in the booth, because people be sleeping on how important you all are that have worked in the booth, and whether it be stage production, live production, concerts, all the
Mhm.
things that we think of, where literally the booth workers are the lifeline to those who are on stage. And so I know you've had a ton of experience just seeing any snafus that you had to work through, on top of just literally having to solve problems on the spot. So shout out to all of those that do work in production, in the broadcast or even live production or stage production field. And then
Yeah.
that's an excellent way to even pivot into, like, how did you even get the courage and also boldness to go into podcasting and even into wanting to learn about the field of podcasting, since you come from a traditional like television and also stage live production background?
Yeah, this is a great question too. You have great questions, Julian. You should know that. So what's interesting is I truly think the kind of like the closures that happened because of COVID, when we all had to stay at home in quarantine, was actually the time that I needed to kind of reflect on what I wanted to do. When COVID hit at that time, I had been working professionally in the theater and film space for 12 years. And I was really enjoying it. I was still at the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts at the time. We were doing awesome virtual education programs. And at that time, we decided to launch our first virtual beat creation class called Philly Beats. And so, with that, myself and a partner on the team, we basically created a 6-week curriculum where we taught kids how to make beats virtually. And we taught them how to record their voices, make songs. And then at the end, we did a showcase where we were showcasing all the amazing work that the students were doing. And I started to play around a little bit in what we were using. It's called Soundtrap, and realizing like we can do so much more than just beat creation. animation and creating songs. We could have people making small podcast episodes. So I was playing around a little bit with this with my students at the time, getting very interested in that space as well. Outside of that, though, the podcast space is so similar to the theater space, and really similar to the film space, especially with us going to the video production side of podcasting. And so I saw the adjacent skill set that was there, and just didn't really know how to get in without the support of my, like I said, my networking friend that brought me over. And I think that it was kind of like the next step up for me. It was something different. I was so comfortable in the theater space, and I was like, I just need to like break this mold a little bit and push myself so I can continue to develop and grow as a person. And so that's what I did. So I believe if you ever have an inkling that you want to try something, you want to do something, the worst thing that you can do is just send that resume out and see what happens. You may get a bunch of no's, but it's better than not trying.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to put yourself out there, put your face out there, as a lot of my network and friends say, in order to really see if you can or have what it takes to succeed in industries that you may not know as much information in. And then even like what you were mentioning in literally the pivot in having the courage and boldness to go all the way into audio and entertainment. Were there any challenges making that decision? Did you have any blueprints of people that you wanted to follow in their footsteps, or even people that may have told you some things to look out for, or challenges or hurdles in pivoting into that industry? What were some of your thoughts and challenges or obstacles?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that theater has been around since the beginning of time. And a lot of the systems that have been set up for theater are the things that I was moving through. I was working with these like 100, 200-year institutions and people who have been in the theater space forever. So everything was already established and the way that it was supposed to run was already there. And honestly, there's a lot of issues in the theater space that were very challenging to navigate as a person of color, as a woman of color. So being able to go into the audio space provided some breath away from all of that, but it is new. And so you're coming into a space where everything isn't set for you already. So you're really creating the path and creating the way. And it seems like very refreshing in that way, but it is very challenging where you're hoping that things can kind of work out, and you can figure out what are the systems that need to be set and played to make this the most accessible environment that you can be in. Outside of that, though, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. I am a true crime person, though. I know a lot of people aren't, but I love true crime. And Ashley Flowers, who does Crime Junkie, who does Very Presidential, she's just like an idol of mine. She's an incredible producer. She is the person who's like made the way for true crime to really bust through the door, in my opinion. Her story arc, her storytelling, the way that she builds community around her work. Almost every single podcast that she does that's in this true crime space is dedicated to like a foundation or a group of people that can help these victims that are going through these things. And just seeing how she's been able to leverage her platform to elevate stories that need to be told, but also get money and resources to the people who need it is so important. But outside of that, it is the entertainment space. So you just have to always, make sure you're open to the right people, be very discerning to the groups that you're in. Some people will try to take advantage because it is a new space. And you just got to make sure you have your head on right every time you go into a room, is how I think about it.
Yeah, that's so important, like you said, to have your head on straight and have your head on point, because just like you mentioned, there are going to be hurdles and also roadblocks along the way. And so like that's an excellent area when it comes to career development. Like what careers do you think typically have the most advantage when they are going into podcasting or even audio and entertainment spaces, that some people that may be listening to you, they may actually work in these careers and may not even know that they have the skill set and even the courage and boldness and confidence already built up in them just from working in those careers? Like, what are your thoughts on career transitions?
Absolutely. The easiest ones are film, radio, television, theater. event planning. A lot of podcasts are going into this event space, virtual event space. So those are like the very easy ones. But outside of that, production management, any type of production management or project management is so important. Sometimes we talk about it as like our producers are just creative project managers. So if you have those skills of being really awesome in an Excel sheet, scheduling things, executive assistants, things like that are really, really beneficial in these spaces. And anything that you do that's storytelling. So, if you write books, if you're a writer in general, script writing, if you're in the audiobook space, that's a really easy transition over as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Really, those people, I think, that have those wonderful scheduling mentalities have a space that they can easily get into and then expand from there. If you have a creative inkling to you, I think that there is a space in podcasting. And with that, I always recommend, if you're interested in podcasting, try to make an episode. An episode could be like a 5-minute storytelling of you and see what it feels like. See if you have that skill set to be in front of the mic. If you don't think you're the right person to be in front of the mic, do you have a really cool friend and you can try to record and see if you can do editing and sound design behind them? Like it's a very interesting field to start playing around in right now. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So those that are in certain careers that Jasmine said, or even if you are in those technical fields, I've been learning literally so much information just in a year from being involved with organizations like the Black Pod Collective here in Atlanta, even like Jasmine's agency, Pod People, and others, Afros and Audio, tons of organizations and agencies that I've learned about. There are literally tons of careers and positions for people to get into the audio entertainment space. And it's not just the on-air personalities or the host that you see on the glamour and glitz side, just like coming from a television broadcasting or radio broadcasting background. Jasmine, I used to work in like radio, and I saw how many hands go into the production of a show being produced, just like you've seen it from television. And so, like, stay with that last point too. Talk to people. Like, what positions do people typically play behind the scenes, not the on-air host or the personalities that people sometimes don't even recognize that go into a production of a podcast or even a show being made? Like, what are some positions that key players can make?
100%. So when I'm thinking of a podcast, we kind of have 26 roles that we look at when we're doing any staffing at Pod People. So that's a lot of roles. And of course, a podcast doesn't normally have 26 people that are in front of the in front of the mic or camera at this stage. So a lot of the behind the stage, we have producers, and there's like 4 different major producer roles: associate, assistant, executive, supervising. So those are kind of the creative lenses, the people who make sure that the arc of the process is happening and going really well. We have the project managers, we have the production managers, sometimes sound designers, sound editors, mixers, masters. These are all the people who are in charge of making it sound really good. There's field recorders. So there's the people that, if you're doing a podcast in a really challenging space, like I know we had someone that was doing a podcast in the mountains. And so they were trying to record someone that was climbing up a mountain. And so you had to have someone that is really good with sound that can capture the sound so that all the wind and elements aren't being captured in that recording. Unless it's purposeful, of course. Outside of that, on our internal team, we have our graphic designer, who is amazing. We have our video production folks as well, who are in charge of making sure that the recordings look good, who edit our recordings as well. We have people on our team, like our production managers. We have production assistants who just send out all the kits that are needed and make sure everybody's feeling good. So there are a lot of people behind the scenes that really make it so that the people in front can just like have a good time and be comfortable and have a blast. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah. I've seen literally a lot of key players that if you don't have them on your team, your podcast is going to look or sound trash. And especially the audio components, that audio component, because I learned literally that YouTube sometimes gasses up or literally caps on a lot of the podcasters that are doing a visual component, but their audio, when you listen to the audio version of the podcast on any of the streaming platforms, it is no bueno. It's like trash. And so, like, talk to people about the importance of investing in your audio when you are getting into the podcasting lane, and why people should not shortcut that area of audio.
100%. I recently read somewhere, I wish I could remember where it was, but it was talking about the importance of audio and podcasting, which is an audio forward medium. And it was saying if in the first 15 seconds of a recording, if the audio isn't good, 76% of your listeners will drop. That's a lot. That's like, of course, over half, but that could be the majority of your listeners who are also networking and sharing the information about your work. So, audio is super important. It's amazing what you can actually do with audio. A good mic, a good pair of headphones can do it. Sometimes people just use like the Pro. Oh, what are they called? Like the Apple Pro headphones, just as they're getting started. But as you can go, if you can dedicate $250 to an amazing like microphone headphone set that plugs into your computer, and your computer has a pretty good camera on it, that will take you really far and will keep people engaged with your work longer. So please do it if you can.
Yeah, like Jasmine is telling you all, definitely do not shortcut the audio of your podcast. I've even had our team, just like she said, upgrade into different equipment since first starting off on streaming our podcast episodes to get to a better streaming platform. In the audio, we purchased equipment. So, like Jasmine is saying, if your visual is on point, even with it being on YouTube or other places that you may show the visual interviews, if the audio sucks, then you're going to lose, as Jasmine said, a ton of listeners in the first literally minute, you all. But stay with that point too. I heard you speaking about some of the categories that you like true crime, and especially the mystery categories. I know are very popular from others that I've talked to that have been in the podcast space for a good or a decent amount of time. Like, what are some of the categories that you see, especially from the pod people's perspective, that are most popular to go into, or even some of the ones that are up and coming that others should consider getting their podcast into?
100%. So this is interesting because I love true crime, but true crime is one of the like most heavily participated in podcasting sphere. So it's actually really hard to get attention when you're in that space because so many people are doing it, and it takes a lot to do it really well with the like investigative portion of it. Making sure you're reporting really well. Even though I love it, it is a hard field to get into. Outside of that, though, I really love pop culture. Pop culture podcasts are blowing up everywhere. We work with People Magazine, and it's one of our largest podcasts that we have, where every single day it's a daily podcast. We're talking about something that's going on. So, like when the Queen passed away, we were talking about that. When all the stuff that's happening with this movie that's coming out, with all the drama with Harry Styles and Chris Pine, we're talking about that, and it blows up. So that's a huge one. Dating advice podcasts are actually really popular as well. And financial podcasts are picking up really, really big too, especially for millennials, which, this show is dedicated for. So talking about purchasing homes for millennials, property for millennials, the best way to invest and create financial backing for millennials. So that's really picking up as well.
Yeah, Jasmine is dropping a ton of jewels and letting you know the categories that you should either be getting into from the start, or either if you are considering pivoting into those categories, those are the ones that are hitting all across the board. I've heard, just like she mentioned with true crime, all of the podcasters that I know say that that's where the money is, in getting in that career, that category for podcasting. And then, of course, like she said, pop culture is definitely popular too. And so that's an awesome segue when it comes to like people who are literally trying to spice up their resume. I know you probably look along with your team at a ton of resumes where people may not have the technical resume or the production resume because they may come from a traditional for-profit company where they didn't have a lot of technical skills that they attained. Like, how should people like spice up their resumes to have a separate production or technical resume for going into audio entertainment? What's some advice you can give?
Yeah, there's two things that I always like to remind people: that the podcasting space is new. It's really only been around for like in this wide media space for 7 to 8 years with the release of Serial, which I also love. Serial's amazing. But in the audio space, a lot of people are aware of that, of course, when you're looking for jobs and things like that. So they don't expect your resume to be 100% full all the time of audio work. So what I actually ask our community to do, because I look at maybe 100 resumes a week at this point, is if you do have any audio work, make sure at the top of your resume where you have work experience, you're putting that there. And then all of the other jobs that are not that, but could be related to that, you put under relevant experience. So you make two different sections so that people can see that you're not trying to fudge around and pretend like you've been in the audio space forever. People get it if you haven't done that. The other thing you can do, YouTube University is my best friend. So go on YouTube, go on LinkedIn if you can, and go ahead and take some classes, practice some things at home, start developing those skills yourself so that you can actively put them on your resume and feel good about them. I've taken so many courses on LinkedIn, like hundreds of hours of courses, just in like the project management space, just to make sure I keep my skills up to date, even though I've been doing this forever, and there's nothing wrong with that. It actually helps you in the future. So educate yourself, figure out how to do that. You can do it for free, I promise you. Add those skills to your resume. And the other thing that I always try to remind people is if you are open to moving or living in a different space, be careful about how you put your location on your resumes. Some people read that as like, if I put New York, New York, they read that as like, oh, she wants to stay in New York forever. And that's not necessarily the case. Remote work is huge right now. But just be aware that like sometimes a job will ask you to travel or go places, and sometimes the way we put our locations can limit us. So be aware of that.
That's some jewels of wisdom that Jasmine is dropping on you all today. Definitely, literally, the resume is key. I've even been learning the importance of having different resumes for whichever career or freelance or creative positions that you are applying for. So Jasmine just literally drew out the blueprint for you all to start. Shout out to LinkedIn too. I see you're very active on LinkedIn. We always give a big up to LinkedIn on here because a lot of professionals aren't even on LinkedIn and they're missing out on a ton of opportunities to network and even build and net weave, as my mentor Keith says, with other like-minded professionals. And so shout out to LinkedIn. But I know we definitely want to talk about pod people. People need to be educated about pod people. I forgot to mention, Jasmine, when I went to the Black Pod Festival with Ona and her team this past summer, literally heard from most of the people that I met, they were like, you need to find out and get connected with pod people. And I know y'all were at the Black Pod Festival having a table and also being a sponsor, but even people that were coming from out of state knew about you all. So tell people what is pod people and why folks that are getting into especially podcasting or even audio and entertainment need to be noticing you all and also be affiliated with pod people.
Yeah. So one, I'm sad I didn't see you at Anna's event. I love her so much. So I mean, I was there with Ashton, who's the friend that brought me into Pod People. And he did a wonderful presentation there. So we just miss each other somehow. So I don't know how that happened, but next time, I'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, but Pod People is a production company and staffing agency that's powered by a community of 2,500 audio creators. So with this, we have a production leg and a matchmaking leg that we use our community members to get into different production jobs. For our matchmaking leg, what happens is we work with clients like Wondery and Gimlet, Lemonada, and they already have production teams happening. So what we do is they'll sometimes reach out to us and say, hey, we already have a team, but we need one specific person to fill out the team. So we are able to go into our community database and find the perfect match for them to add to their team. On the other side, we have our full service production, which is when some of our clients like the Netflix, the Spotify's, they come to us and they really want a full service production to happen, but they don't have the capacity to do it or something else is going on. So we'll do the entire production process for them with them kind of there for the creative oversight. And with that, we put our community members into that too. So it's our entire team working on that. We do all of this for free for our community. And with that as well, my side is that we are, I'm kind of the educational networking lens of our community. So I am in charge of creating educational events, networking opportunities, happy hours, different ways for our community to engage with each other in this virtual space. So we have like a wonderful social platform. We have a job board, anything to keep our community engaged in that way. And our goal is to create equitable audio experiences to uplift marginalized stories. That's kind of why we're here. And so we've been working with amazing clients to do that. We pride ourselves on our diversity efforts. Right now with our matchmaking, we try to put up at least 50% of our candidates are from marginalized backgrounds with a specific focus in ethnicity right now. And so we're always looking to have more community members, specifically of color, specifically of marginalized backgrounds, come in so that we can make sure that we're up leveling you and getting you into these really awesome job opportunities that we have going on.
Yeah, shout out to Pod People. I know you all are doing some phenomenal work, and as you mentioned, you are very diverse, which is key. The podcasting space, we need to have as many folks of color that are black and brown that look like myself and Jasmine in there, especially now more than ever. And so you need to definitely go and check out Pod People today, like right now, you all, and which goes into like a good pivot when it comes to why people, Jasmine, try to do it on their own and they don't get into networks or agencies like Pod People to actually help give them not just the skill set, but even the community aspect of talking to like-minded people that are content creators, that are podcasters. Like, why should people get into like agencies like Pod People or even Black Pod Collective or other podcast specific niche networks versus trying to be out there a lone wolf trying to figure things out on their own?
Yeah, this is huge. And I think a lot of this has turned into a result of us being in this kind of like quarantined remote space where we really do feel isolated and we physically are a lot of times because of the effects of COVID. Um, but we have all of these wonderful networks that are literally creating communities for us so that we can engage and have an easier time at what we do. Like I said, literally my career has developed because of networking. Like I do think I'm awesome. But outside of that, every step of the way, someone has been there to vouch for me and to be there for me and to support me. And leaning into that will take you so much further. Even as small as having a larger net of listenership comes from the people that you surround yourself with first. And then if that one person can share with one person and one person, that's how the word gets out about the work that you're doing. There's also no reason to be by yourself if you don't want to be. There are so many people out here trying to do this and figure it out together, literally at this time. As Julian was saying, it's such a crucial time to come in because we are all developing together. And if you can be on the forefront of this, then by the time it really expands in the way that it can, you may actually be someone that's a mover and shaker in this field. So, but you have to be surrounded by the right network to make that happen and the right people. So get into these spaces, especially I love Black Pod. The Podcast Academy is a really great group as well. Pod People, like I said, we're free. We're here to support. Use these environments that are already there to help you to get to where you need to.
Yeah, she's dropping a ton of jewels, you all, because I've only literally been podcasting legit like for a year, but I found out so many resources, including conferences. I know Jasmine has probably literally marketed a ton of podcast conferences that people can go and meet people from all over the world that are literally still learning and at different levels because the industry is so new, like Jasmine said. And so tap in and literally connect with these resources. You all do not try to just follow those who are on YouTube and literally leave yourself cut short from not networking with people who are heavily involved in the industry and not just faces that you see on YouTube podcasts. But shout out again, like you said, to Podcast Academy, Black Pod Collective, and also, of course, the Pod People. And which goes into like our last wind down as we get ready to close out shortly with our final jewels. Like, where do you see the podcasting field going, Jasmine, especially for, let's say, Black and brown creatives? Like, why should people not cut short their abilities to get into the industry while it is still on the come up? It's not literally at the plateau or the glass ceiling yet. Like, why should people get in, and where do you see it going in the near future for podcasts?
Yeah, right now, the people who are getting into the podcasting space are the people who are setting the standards for the stories that are to come. And so the stories of people from marginalized backgrounds, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, this is the time to get in to make our stories a part of the primary foundation of the stories that exist in this space. Of course, later more stories can come, whatever. But even if you think about like TV and film and all those spaces, the same kinds of stories, the same kinds of people show up all the time because it has been established from the beginning that that's the way it should be. So let's get in early. Let's get in at the beginning and become a part of the typical foundation. Outside of that, though, and this is my favorite question. I'm a video gamer. I love video games, and I really think the podcasting space is going to end up in the metaverse. I think we are going to be in the virtual reality space, and we're going to be doing interactive live podcast shows, but they are going to be all virtual reality. So we'll be able to be in the same room with a Julian and hanging out in the audience, but as avatars instead. I think that I'm working a lot with Dolby Atmos right now, and we're talking a lot about the sound transitions and how to use that software to really tell the stories that you're trying to do with sound in different spaces. And it's just going to be able to create more spaces that are interactive and that we can move through, and the sound will travel with us and feel more realistic. That's my vision. I see it. It's coming.
Oh no, I second that. You're dropping that jewel, that future jewel of wisdom, because literally that's what I've been hearing, especially from people that are so active on Clubhouse and Wisdom and even Twitter Spaces now. That why not put it in the metaverse where you can have literally like they have the meta concerts that people can attend, like Travis Scott had done during the pandemic. But even why not have you, as you said, have a live Q&A or a live podcast show that is literally with all of the avatars in the meta. And so shout out to, again, Jasmine, telling us the future, being a futurist and telling us where podcasts literally are headed, you all, because that is something that I've heard too. And I second that. That's definitely the wave that I'm sure is coming. And so, Jasmine, we've come to our final piece of the interview today, where we allow our guest to leave a final jewel of wisdom. We know you've done an awesome job in talking about how you started off in theater and also in live production, and even pivoted to television broadcasting, and it has brought you so far ahead in the audio and entertainment space. But what is a final jewel that you would leave for those who may be sitting on the sidelines still, those who may be in the industry but may not know how much benefits and resources there are if they tap in? Like, what would be a final jewel that you would want to leave for our audience today?
I think I want to go back to the idea that you never know what's possible unless you do the outreach yourself. You have to start somewhere. And there are so many people who are on the same space as you. So making sure that you're able to connect with those people when things are hard, when things are challenging, but also bringing them with you when things are really going well for you. With this, if you are a new professional and you just like want to inquire about like what's going on in the podcasting space, if you want someone to look at your resume, anything like that, please, I'm so happy if you want to reach out to me. You can at jasmine@podpeople.com, Jasmine, JASMINE at podpeople.com. My job is literally to build community and to support people. And so that's a good starting place for you. I'm happy to connect with you. And good luck out there. You know, I believe in you, whoever you are. And if you really go for it, I think you got it.
Absolutely. Jasmine is doing some major work in the community. Literally, she's the VP, you all, the Vice President of Community for Pod People. So she's someone who is a trusted leader in this space, especially for her agency and company, Pod People. And so she's telling you the blueprint, you all. Jasmine, how can, outside of your email too, how can people stay in touch with you before we say a quick blessing and a quick prayer over you for thanking you for coming on today's segment?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's Hey Jazzy Hey, HeyJassy, and also my LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to reach out to me there. And I'm always happy to connect with you. Please be aware I'm busy, but I'm here when I can connect with you.
Y'all, she's a busy woman. She's a busy lady, you all. You got to definitely correct and also come prepared. I know she said 100 resumes. I repeat again, that she looks at on a regular basis. And so that's not just a few. That's a hundo, as we say. But definitely shout out to you, Jasmine, for taking the time out again. We always say a quick blessing over all of our guests that come on and share their jewels of wisdom. But for those who are listening, if you've been blessed or you enjoyed this episode with Jasmine today, feel free to sow a seed with us. We are one podcast that is literally taking our show on the road, literally interviewing international guests next season. And we've shown the progress for those who have been tracking with us. But if you've enjoyed today's episode, sow a seed by either cash apping us at $SMART, SMART, JEWELZ, or you can click the link that we're putting in the comment section to become a monthly Patreon with us, or even to purchase some of our new merch that we have for our Shine Create and Shine collection that we just launched this year. And so shout out to all of our VIP donors and VIP sponsors at the bottom of the screen on the ticker. We appreciate all of you all. Midnight Prayer Watch, Get Gains or Get Gone, Delta Community Credit Union, ExpressVPN, Jazz in the Alley, and Janine and others, you all, for sewing into our future and sewing into our podcast. But Jasmine, I'm going to say a quick blessing over you for thanking you for your time and then let you enjoy the rest of the day, if that's okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Perfect. Father, I just want to thank you for Jasmine. I thank you for just the tenacity and the boldness that you placed within her. To just not just educate others, but even to sow into others and to let them know that they have a purpose, do have skills, and they also are building up their confidence to succeed in their purpose that you placed within inside of them. We thank you for her passion and also her purpose in being in the audio and entertainment space. And we ask you to continue to guide her to those that will open doors that she's never imagined in her future and also in her calling and also in her career. We thank you for who she is already helped and even those that she doesn't know that she's helped along the way. And we ask you to bless her 100-fold plus for all that she's sown. May she receive it 100+ fold and also guide her into new opportunities. I love you, Abba. I praise you. And it's in Yeshua HaMashiach, the Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
We appreciate you, Jasmine, for taking time out with us, Queen. I know I'm sure, meeting you in the near future face to face because I'm getting connected with pod people literally as we speak. And so thank you again for all you do for pod people and also for the audio entertainment community.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, everybody, for taking some time to check it out. I really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the day, Queen, and we'll be in touch. Peace.
Bye.
All right, y'all. I'm going to do some quick jewels for thought. You heard directly from Jasmine, who is the VP of Community. That means that she is someone that builds communities and builds ecosystems. If you are not building community, you're not building tribes, you're not building an ecosystem, then you are not building correctly, you all. You have to have a network and also a community to literally build with. Otherwise, you are going to find yourself building alone. That is a jewel in itself. You have to find a community, a tribe, or an ecosystem to plug into. Otherwise, eventually you will find yourself building alone. You can't do this journey of life on your own. You have to plug into like-minded creators, like-minded content creators, like-minded individuals who know the path and also who have the blueprint to pass off to you. So again, plug in, you all, to Pod People, any of the organizations that Jasmine mentioned throughout today's interview, because you need to step it up, you all. You have to be able to apply all the knowledge that you are receiving, but also share it with others. Don't keep it to yourself. And so I'm going to give you some quick highlights of what we're doing for this season. You can stay connected with us at Smart, SMART, Life, JEWELZ. That's Smart Life Jewels on IG. You can follow myself on IG at King Jewels with the Z Speaks. And then also check out smartjewelsenterprises.org. So that's www.smartjewelsenterprises.org to stay in touch with us throughout the rest of the year to see what our team and myself are doing. But take a look and see what are some other office services that we provide for podcasters and content creators. We are powered by the Smart Jewelz Enterprises and Smart Jewelz Network. And you can reach new audiences with services that provide podcast show creation, live streaming services like the platform we're on, podcasts, technical assistance or live streaming assistance. Even if you're wanting to do webinars or to do online virtual conferences, our team has those services to provide for you as a content creator, a podcaster, or even someone that operates an online show. And so let's talk. Sign up for a free 30-minute discovery session by clicking a link that we're putting in the comment section, or you can go to www.smartjewelsenterprises.org. And then finally, we're taking our mission and our goal to the nations, you all. We've already gone to Asia, Africa. We've been in South and Central America this year, but we've been going to Europe, Australia, and even Antarctica eventually. but we're literally interviewing guests that are young professionals and entrepreneurs to talk about their country, their economy, their culture, and most importantly, their passions. You all, we're talking to people about what are they passionate about with their countries, and so stay tuned as we go on the road this next season, hosted by myself and also our very special VIP co-host who will reveal shortly. But we're taking the Smart Travel Jewels as the new show as we dive into this next season. And so listen to Run the Jewels to find out more information about that as we step into this international journey, full-fledged, with even having travel groups for content creators coming soon. So stay tuned, you all. But take a look as a preview of what's to come, and we appreciate you.